Hello, my name is Tanisha Garner, and this is my capstone project for the Golden Monkey Cafe located in Lynn, Massachusetts. So this is my brief to start with. So the first thing that we did was we went ahead and brainstormed which idea do we want to go with. I ultimately chose a Golden Monkey Cafe, and the reason being is because their current website was outdated, and it looks like they built it through one of those like Wix websites or template builders. So for my solution for this project was to reimagine their brand aesthetically, structurally, and of course responsibly as well. The thought process behind choosing the Golden Monkey Cafe over Roxolana's portfolio, which is a friend of mine, was because overall Lynn is important to me. It is my hometown, and I grew up around a lot of Cambodian people. And so I have been exposed to a lot of their cuisine, their culture, and I wanted to go ahead and support a local business for my senior project. I did not have another idea outside of those two. But I don't think that I would have chosen another idea between those two, because it offered many ways to build the project along with challenges to really hone in on my skill set. So, with the idea, I chose a golden monkey. I ended up choosing that because it presented a real world problem with real world experience. And the main goal was to revamp their website entirely to be more visually appealing while also introducing the user to more interactiveness on the site. My solutions are different from current solutions because I wanted to implement features that would enhance the user experience and overall just give them a better experience on the site in general compared to the original site. I know that there wasn't a lot of places that they can go on the website at all. So I wanted to make sure that they can experience the website in a new way. For changes, over the course of the project, many changes were very small. I pretty much followed my wireframe sketches, but I did implement small things overall, very not as noticeable, but just more so about to do with the structure of the pages themselves. But for the most part, they pretty much follow the wireframes. So for my milestones, my plan and my timeline. So the plan was generally is to introduce new features and functionality to their website. Again, on their original website, they did not have much functionality, and there wasn't really much for any user to do. So I wanted to include a proper navigation bar, a working home button, a carousel for images using jQuery, and also include a full menu page with descriptions and pricing. I also wanted to implement a Google Maps API integration and buttons to link directions. Also, a review section as well. And I wanted to make sure that that was properly structured with the brand and the theme of the website. So, the milestones, I originally planned for all of my HTML to be completed within 2 weeks. I think I did, for the most part, hit that mark. I completed my homepage, my menu, about us, gallery, and contact us page. And within 5 weeks, my goal was to have all of my CSS completed for the styling of my pages, along with the functionality of my pages using JavaScript. Um, but I did find myself pretty much going in and changing things as the project progressed. So I did find that I was styling and re-editing and doing all those things um, towards the end of the project. Um, and then towards the end of the course, the goal was to have any kinks and tweaks worked out in my code and polished for a more final result. Overall, I think that due to time constraints, I did do exactly what I wanted to do, and I'm very satisfied with the overall general product. But I do feel like there are small things that could be tweaked and worked on, and something I can look forward to in the future. So for the brief, did I follow the brief? Um, so I did follow my project fairly closely. I went through a lot of brainstorming and planning via wireframes. I looked at typefaces and color palettes, and I did at the end come up with a general idea for color and style and why I chose those things. So I chose a Matic, and I chose for the main font for just the branded font, and then for the text, I chose Montserrat. So I just wanted to be able to kind of like toggle back and forth between those fonts, so it's very much easier for the reader to go through and read the things that are on the website. And as far as the color palette, I did get a lot of inspiration from just Cambodian culture and um, the way that they use color throughout their history. Um, so there's a lot of representation that comes from the colors that I chose. For example, blue represents freedom, red represents bravery, luck, and prosperity, black, power and strength, white, purity and truth, and gold, wealth and loyalty, which is why they call it the golden monkey. Um, Gold has a very significant um, meaning in Asian and Cambodian culture generally. As far as following my timeline, I did follow my timeline to the project semi-closely. My goal was to have my entire structure HTML completed for each page of the website. I found that I prefer to build one page at a time, including the CSS. So as far as the build of the project, I did try to follow the timeline as much as I possibly could. But I did, again, we're all human, so I do notice that I kind of toggled back and forth between like the CSS, editing some of the HTML to fit some of the CSS, and like going back and forth between the JavaScript. So I did bounce around between the languages, but overall I did focus on one thing at a time. But once those things were completed, I did find myself going back and forth between those languages. What went well with the plan obstacles? So this was written in the middle, but what went well with the plan is building out the home page for a solid branded look and feel, and that did carry on to other pages within the project. I wanted to make sure that I had like the theme, the aesthetic down, and the functionality for operating. Some of the obstacles that I faced were mainly on the homepage with the review section and the API. Um, and I did have difficulty pulling those reviews directly from Google, although I had proper keys and Google products enabled for usage. I didn't want to code the reviews manually, but I did, after so long of trying to figure out how to get those reviews straight from Google, I did find that there were some limitations there. So I went ahead and I found an alternative route using a JSON file and using JavaScript to plug that information on the page. And when I figured that out, I did also implement a rotation feature so that way, whenever the page reloads, um, we would be able to see different reviews. So it would be a rotation of different mixed up reviews. So this is my sketches and my wireframes, but well before all of this was actually put into place, I put pen to paper and I visualized what I wanted this to look like. And I find that, personally me, writing things down on paper helps me a lot. So I went ahead and took a notebook and I wrote and I drew out all of the sections to my pages. and I pretty much follow this structure throughout the progress of this project. I did not have more than one sketch, wireframe bundle. I pretty much kind of followed through with what I saw visually in my head. So that's kind of how I went about this portion of the project. Following or changing sketches. Again, I did not change sketches, but I did make sure that I followed the original design pretty much to the T. But again, as time progressed, I did manage to see different things that would work out for the project. So that's kind of what I did. Also, when it comes to feedback, I did take that feedback and really try to implement those things as well, as long as it made sense for the project itself. So, of course, the first phase was brainstorming, which we went through, deciding which project I wanted to go with, which was the Golden Monkey. And then the second one was identifying core issues and coming up with solutions for the problems that the original website had. So I went ahead and kind of brainstormed all of that. For phase three, define. I followed a plan, structure, and timeline throughout my project. And again, my plan was to introduce new features and functionality to the Golden Monkey brand. For phase four, ideation. Um, Again, although I didn't have more than one set of sketches for or wireframes, the project did evolve naturally. And over time, I did see it just kind of come to life as I progressed through my code. And again, I did follow my wireframes for the most part to the T, but just naturally, some things did progress and change. Um, as far as feedback for the testing phase, I did present this to my peers, to friends and family, and overwhelmingly, I did see a positive review. There were some things that I could work on, and I knew that because, again, it wasn't finished. Um, and some of the suggestions that I got was changing the font on the menu page, using more black in the background, different font for the body, and visual hierarchy, and scaling down the logo to sit more evenly with the navigation bar. That was particularly on the the desktop version of the website, and then also making the site responsive, which was in progress. Um, so I did go ahead and kind of test this out with different groups and see what feedback I would receive. And overall, I did look through each of these feedback suggestions, and I did take those into consideration. And I made the site responsive. I to the best that I can. I feel like because I did the mobile, I did the desktop, and then I made it responsive for most devices as far as phones. I think I could have worked on making it responsive for tablets, but my main focus, especially with time constraints, I focused on desktop and just traditional like iPhones and Samsung screens. As far as refining the style, so after receiving the feedback, I did go ahead, like I've said, I did go and try to take some of those suggestions and implement them in my project. Um, and the last thing I said I would do was go in to expand my menu tabs to include more categories and move some menu cards into them from others. So on my menu page, I did make sure to like add more of the dishes that they have to different tabs for the starters, the mains, the kits, the drinks, the sides, and the sauces. Um, I will say one of the challenges with that was I was able to gather enough imagery for most of the products that they sell. Well, not products, but most of the dishes that they sell. And but there were a few that were missing there. But overall, I was able to kind of add a lot more of those menu cards into my menu page. So that was a huge part of refining while also making sure that desktop and mobile fit for their own needs. So that's kind of what, why I would consider refining was making sure that things looked right in both areas while also making sure that, across the board, everything that needs to be on the website is there for people to see. So this comes down to the final stage of implementation. So this is a screen mockup that I created via Canva, and I took my home page and I put it on a laptop, but I also made sure to put it on the mobile as well. So as you could see, the differences between these, I have on the desktop my navigation menu traditionally styled, and then on the mobile version, I do have a hamburger menu to make things a lot simpler. So that way, when people click on it, they can go ahead and select whichever page they want to go to. And then I also, at the bottom of that, added my GitHub link to this as well. So during the final stages of development, I feel like it pretty much all come together how I envisioned it. Although there are some things that, again, due to time constraints, that I feel like I would go back in and revise. But overall, through the creation of the site, I learned a great deal about structure, organization, and the importance of what it takes to create a full website for a real business. And I'm honored to have been able to create something for a local business that is close to me, and also um, something that I've been exposed to for a long time in my life, and just Cambodian culture and the history, and a lot of friends that are Asian as well, mainly Cambodian. So what went well was following a timeline and following through with refinement through feedback from my peers, friends, and family. This has generally helped me see a different perspective in the lens of the entire project. And again, there are small things that I would change, but overall, I am satisfied with the product itself. But on to the challenges. I was working through a lot of obstacles at different stages. We have talked about that through the progress of this project, like getting my API to work, and finding a workaround as far as the reviews from Google. So I did create a JSON file instead of direct from Google. And that did take me a while to figure out because I was trying to problem solve that and see if there was any other workaround, but I ultimately decided to go with the JSON file. And then I would say my last thing um, was not having a mobile first mindset. And we've always heard this through the course of my time here at ASU. Was to have a mobile first mindset, but I generally, I dived in, I started building and kind of just started with desktop. And I realized after some feedback that I was going to have to start digging into that sooner. Um, and I realized why, because it did take me a lot longer to code those styles for mobile and kind of rearrange some things in order for those things to be viewed the way that I'd like them to. Um, and also, as far as images, that was a something I had to go through my entire project length, but I did find myself having to find proper images because the business that I'm doing this for, they're not the greatest at taking, consistent photos. So I went ahead and tried to like fill in the blanks there and make sure that I had all of the proper images that worked for the site itself. So those are my challenges overall. Those are the big ones there that I faced through the implementation of my final project. And to conclude, overall, I did learn that it does take a lot of time, organization, structure, and a thorough understanding of a plan to complete a project this size. And I know that there's way more that comes with this in order to make this like a live on the floor working website for the public, which is a possibility. So I really hope that we can get to that point. But overall, I do understand that there's so much that comes with this. Um, Coming from a naturally creative background, I did find that this is pretty much my strong suit. I do come from a background of like filmmaking and art and creativity. And then later in life, I did decide to go this route. So I did find that some of those traits did apply here. And I did learn a lot um, about upgrading my skills through try and error through this project. And I learned that there will always be a sort of challenge in the continuous learning um, in this industry. Um, as far as flexibility and looking for solutions, this has been key for me through the entirety of this project and ultimately traits that I will carry with me when creating future projects. Um, the good things that I did, the things that I could have done better. I will carry those things with me as I create things in the future. And the last part would be about project manager for this project. This is my first time being a project manager, but I did learn that organization and time management has helped me successfully build this project in the time that I expected it overall. So I'm generally very happy with where we are. And again, in the future after this, I can go ahead and kind of build on top of that. But ultimately, this class and this project has taught me a great magnitude of what it really takes to be a developer in a sense. So that is my implementation. Lastly, here is my works cited for the images that I've used on my project here. I wanted to make sure I had that in my documentation. So here's that. And lastly, I do want to say thank you for watching this in its entirety. And I hope you have a good rest of your day. Thank you.